Hey, welcome. We've got some more high-level adaptive KAGI action. This is the KAGI Monthly Madness Tournament for August. The first round of 32. On the top of the screen, we have DarthMuzo, who has brought a Draconic Measures deck, Morgenstern, Furge's Trickster. It's a Geistoid Oboros Unfathomable deck that definitely has some creatures in it. A lot of creatures. Board is going to matter. It has an old switcheroo, which is an action and a Geistoid lets you capture one and then pass that creature to the other side of the table. So some Amber control and Amber exchanging there. And the Dragon's Pod has some cards in it. This is definitely a deck with cards in it. And I think it's going to be a question of whether it can win the board to see how well it's going to do. So, on the other side, on the bottom side of the screen, we have Anduri1, who has brought a Winds of Exchange deck, Honorable Adaptive, the Unhinged Bard. That is a Halifax deck, so draw the Halifax early and many of your problems get solved, I'm sure. Halifax action in Brobnar. Search your library for 4 Bracken cards, and those cards are Harmolatoon, Volca, Brick Nasty, and Gedhammer. So there you bring the band together. And then they all go in your hand. You get a chain for each card that you put in your hand this way. That one has double closed door negotiation for scaling amber control, triple generous offer for non-scaling amber control, and a puzzling trinket. And then there's also a Sanctum House. The token is a Brobnar Skirmisher. And I'm not seeing which deck goes first, but they're off to bidding on Adaptive, which doesn't surprise me. Let me note that for them there, so they don't miss it. Yeah, definitely clear that the Woe deck is gonna have that. The Brobnar can definitely just take over the board. And given that the Draconic Measures deck just has a bunch of creatures that are going to need to be fought off, you can definitely do that with this Brobnar, especially because there are 4 pieces in the Halifax band. One of them is Gedhammer, 5 power Brobnar creature, which says destroyed, ready all of your friendly Brobnar creatures and enrage them. So if you can get that killed, that lets you use everything else you just played on the turn that it goes down. And Shockherder is a 3 power goblin play with deploy, so you can put it anywhere in your battle line. Ready and fight with the neighboring creatures. So you can play Gedhammer, you can use Shockherder to ready and fight, and assuming there's a large enough creature, which I believe there are some 5 power creatures in here, so we'll see if they are in play when shenanigans start to happen. They're figuring out first player. Good, good, good. So we'll have to watch for how big the board is from the DM deck, and then if the Gedhammer gets its first fight, Harmolatoon, and they're part of the band, says each other friendly creature gains destroyed, return this creature to your hand. So instead of losing the Gedhammer, you get it back, you can play it again, and then the Shockherder will be ready, so you can fight with that, get it back, play it again. And with those 2, you can use all of your other creatures over and over redundantly. So that's what we're playing around. The bid is already up to 10 chains. The DM deck just needs a board, so 10 is not crazy, and there's not a lot of creature control besides the Brobnar house doing Brobnar things. I mean, the Sanctum house is just also full of creatures. The Ecodon house is amber control, not board control, so you don't actually have great answers unless you draw the Brobnar, so you're kind of gambling on the finding those creatures on time. There's a pass. Okay, 10 chains. 10's change for the woe deck. The woe deck goes first. So it's just going to be a question of how many creatures we see. Oh. I believe in their ability to figure this out, so we're not going to worry too much about that. Somehow they can. There we go. Hey, got it. Yeah, honestly, I'm not familiar with some of these rare dragons cards, so we're going to see what they look like when they come up. But I'm sure there's plenty of power over here. The Geistoid house also has some capture with the double tribute collector and the Varad, the Karu Ice Fins are creatures. Yeah, so you've got good tools to fight once the Brobnar gets put down from the DM deck, but that first turn when the Brobnar shows up, it's going to be rough. So 10 chains means that the Anduri1 on the Woe deck is going to draw 2 less cards for 3, their starting hand, and then 3 turns, and then 1 less card for 6 turns, assuming the game lasts that long, which is possible. Yeah, I don't see why this game would end particularly fast. Fortunately, in the meantime, you have plenty of Equidon Steel to kind of keep the thing in check. But if I'm sitting on the side of the Wodak and I know that their plan is to play a bunch of creatures and then start reaping, it's kind of tricky whether you hold the Equidon from the start if you draw it early, because the first couple turns where it's just playing a bunch of creatures doesn't really do anything. Okay, so turn 1, going first, Child the Safeguard. 4 power, 2 armor, it's a creature. First turn going second, Siphon Maw, 4 power, it's a creature. Both decks showing us that they can play a single creature from their hand, which is good. Do we get a mulligan from DarthMuzo? Yes. So it is surprising to me that the best thing you can find is Siphon Maw on a turn 1 with a 6-card hand. It is not surprising to me that 3 Brobnar creatures are pretty good, so I can see why Anduri1 kept the hand. Now the Woe deck is winning the board. That is bad for the Draconic Measures deck because I don't think you do very much if you aren't winning the board. But you have things like Return to Revel eventually to clear it. The Siphon Maw. So yeah, so turn 2 for Anduri1, we see Harmalatune, Gedhammer, we talked about both those, and a Heeb the Huge, which at this point is just a 6 power Brobnar creature. So 3 Brobnar creatures, 1 Sanctum creature against, we're going to find out. Dragons is the call for Morgenstern. Leylines exhausts all of the creatures in play because they overwhelmed, Daring Dealt, and then Hoarding the Goods for the Amber. So we made 2 Amber, right for the stealing. I expected a lot of turns to not make Amber from either side because, I mean, combined we've got, 7. We've got like 22 or so creatures in that deck, and another probably 20 here. Maybe just like 18. I don't know. Math is hard. Equidon is the call. Exocell system makes a token. Jump Cut Vendor. Little 2-card turn. Small turns are not surprising given the restriction of the chains. We are now down to 6 chains. So from here on out, we're going to see 5-card hands instead of 4-card hands. And that's going to help make things better. On the other side, we see a Keanu. Keanu, very Keanu Reeves looking. Has play, choose an enemy creature with no power counters on it, exhaust that creature and each of its neighbors. So that's going to exhaust the Skirmisher, the Gedhammer, and the Jump Cut Vendor, which makes sense. Siphon Maw Reaps, creature. How many more creatures we got over here? We've got 2 so far. I assume we're going to see at least one more. Yeah, there's a Hikara Icefin and another Hikara Icefin. So the Icefins, if they get to live, and that's an if, are pretty nifty. After Reap, choose a house, exhaust each creature of that house. So if you go Unfathomable, then you can kind of turn off the Brobnar for a turn so that it's not ready to go, barring a Shock Herder from hand, and you've got 5 Unfathomable in play, and that is what we call problem. So the question for Anduril is, how do you want to answer that? Brobnar seems like a good place to start. Brick Nasty, another part of the band. 5-power Giant Bracken, or its types. After another friendly Brobnar creature fights, gain 1 amber. So that's a great way to turn all of your fighting into amber generation. And then we see Earthshaker, 7-power Brobnar Giant. Play, destroy each creature with power 3 or lower, and in this case that hits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 creatures, most of them coming from DarthMuzo, so that's gonna clean up a lot of problems. The board, once again, definitely looking in Anduril's favor with 7 creatures to the now 3 that Morgenstern and DarthMuzo have put into play. So we see a Dragon's Call, we have a Gorem, Cosmic Crux, and a Fight from the Daring Delt to hit Brick Nasty. Yep, that's a good one to hit. There are 2 bricks, 2 Brick Nasties in Adaptive. So we got a second one coming, and Halifax is able to fetch and find them. With the Dragon Leader Agorem in the center of the battle line, friendly creatures are getting +5 power. So the 3 dragon creatures in play are quite large. However, the band is pretty much together at this point. So back into Brobnar, Brick Nasty, and then we see Fight from 2 Brobnar creatures that go back to hand thanks to Harmel Attune. So we can play those 2, we can Reap with Harmel, and then Ged will fight. Oh, Ged's going to Reap. Never mind. Alright, so we can play these 2 again, I think. I'm not quite sure why you'd be holding them in hand. It's not like they're any more vulnerable in play. Yeah, okay, there's the Heave the Huge. Earthshaker stays in hand. Interesting line. All of the Geistoid cards are 4 power or greater. Doesn't hit that, except for maybe the Hammersmith. We saw a bunch of Unfathomable go by, all the little creatures. And then there's the Ouroboros, which... Sure? The problem with this line means you don't shed a chain, which is something that you generally want to do if possible, because it slows you down. But there's definitely a plan. Not sure what the plan is, there's definitely a plan. Okay, here comes DarthMuzo. And by the way, we're 6 turns in, no keys forged. In case you were expecting key forging in this KeyForge game, you're going to have to be a little patient. Geistoid is the call. Tribute Collector with a power icon. Gives itself the power. Capture name draw into itself. And then Old Switcheroo captures another one onto Tribute Collector and then passes it to the other side. So eventually that will leave play, and that will be a 2 amber swing. Or if 4, yeah, it's a steal for 2. It's a slow steal for 2. But now we see Brobnar here. Heave the Huge fights Cosmic Crux. And then we Reap out a bunch. So 8 amber to 3. No keys forged. I'm a little curious why the Get Hammer doesn't get to do its thing. You could have got a bunch of extra Reaps in there, but we didn't go for it. Bubbles gets a power counter, puts Harmel Attune back on top of the deck, so that slows the roll on the Brobnar for a turn. Pistol Sight blows up the bubbles, looks at the hand. We don't get to know what he sees, unfortunately, but probably some interesting stuff. There's the Earthshaker discarded. Yeah. I was confused about that before. I'm confused about that now. But this Fish House also doesn't have a lot solve these problems. Bubbles was good. Yeah, so a good play of Bubbles to then destroy it so that Gedhammer, if it were fully healed, couldn't run into it for stuff. Unfortunately, Gedhammer has 3 damage on it already, so that's a moot point. But I like destroying that. We also have a Knuckler and a Paralysis Sign in play. They both have 3 power. They both have 2 armor for the moment. Yeah, back into Brobnar. Unfazed entirely by the fact that we don't have a Harmolotune in play. A fight, a reap, and a draw of 1 card. Nope, no draw. I feel like you want to find that Harmel at some point. You are up a key. Up a key is a good place to be. Dragons is the call. Vanguard Wounds kills Brick. Noxious Inox with Power Counter. Powers up himself. Another dragon. Sad part about how to play creatures is they don't make amber. And amber is the thing that wins the game. So even though we're probably going to see... Yeah, so we saw 3 cards played that turn that made exactly 0 amber because they're creatures. Or an action with no amber pip. So you need your creatures to live, and I'm not sure you're going to get your wish against... I mean, eventual Halifast. We'll get there when we get there. We're already up a key. It's tricky to say how many more chains you would want. 10 feels wrong just because the Robnar board wins so hard when it sticks. And like seeing Earthshaker wipe away 5 creatures like that. Your starting hand could be Earthshaker 4 other blank cards, and you could wait for a couple turns and then wipe their whole board and have shed some chains. So 10 maybe a little low, like 15, maybe a little high, hard to say. You also have the kind of inherent variance of you could just draw Halifast on your opening hand, and that's pretty good. It kind of makes so it makes Halifast such a tricky card to play around in something like Adaptive, because you don't know when it's going to show up, and when it shows up really swings the power level of what the deck is able to achieve. This DM deck, on the other hand, has a much flatter power curve because it's always going to play creatures. It always needs to use those creatures to reap, to make amber. So much more predictable in its output, but doesn't have an abundance of tools. So knowing how to manage those tools and apply pressure with the creatures in play is the important tactical skill that you're going for, I would expect, with a deck like this. Flipping back to the game, we saw that Dragon's turn, Sanctum turn, makes some amber, and Durrell gets to check, sheds down to 3 chains, finally draws. We sat on that Sanctum turn for a little while, so we found the Harmolotune again. We've lost all our fun cards that could have gone with it. Dragons is the turn. We destroy Gedhammer. Prime Authority, ready or it's an action in Dragons or Ouroboros. Ready or exhaust a creature if there are more exhausted friendly creatures than exhausted enemy creatures. Gain 2 amber, so that readied Noxious Inox and gained 2 amber. And then we are reaping with Rhea Bevy Grass, which gets to capture some amber, and then reap with the Noxious Inox. So we played 1 card, we used 2 creatures, and we are staring down a board that is wide and keeps getting wider. Not a great spot to be. DarthMuzo did get to check, and that last turn did not get to stay at check because of the gem code vendor. Finally gets to cash in on, this is a neat little trick. So Noxious Inox is a 4-power dragon creature with Entrench, so you don't have to ready it at the end of your turn. And at the start of your turn, if it is exhausted, you get to destroy an enemy creature. So DarthMuzo was on 5 amber, but at the start of his turn, gets to blow up that Tribute Collector that we talked about a little while ago to cash in on the 2 amber that was on it. That happens before the Forge a Key step, so still gets to Forge a Key, even though there was a capture on the past turn that took him off check. Very nifty little play. I can see depending on how long this Inox lives, you can start to tidy up things in play, but you're also behind by 5 creatures. So if we can find like a return to rubble here, that's probably a better way to get back in this game. Just to reset the board to 0. The bad news is you know Hallowfest is coming. The good news is you aren't behind 5 creatures anymore. The other bad news is you'd be giving up your captured amber here, so I guess that's probably not optimal. Instead, we see 1, 2, 3 Geistoid creatures making no amber, and a pass back. And we had a draw. Okay, so I was curious why we had 7 cards and only drew 2. It's because Gehrasi Blacksmith, tricky little Equidon card. It's a Getroika Artisan, 4 power with elusive. At the start of each player's turn, the player chooses either to make a token creature or draw a card. So for your opponent, this is basically always like to draw a card. For you, you have to decide whether it's better to make a token or to draw. Anduri1 here elects to make a token. That token could be Hallowfest, and that would be bad. Maybe Hallowfest is already in hand. So, tricky little card. The Blacksmith is, I see some players just discard it because your opponent gets to use it first. So in theory, they could draw and then kill it, and you get no value from it. You've just let your opponent draw a card. But there are plenty of cards that let your opponent draw a card. Sometimes you gotta play them. This is just the way of KeyForge. Not every card is perfect, and that's the fun of the game. So we saw still on Anduri1's 10th turn. We made it to 10 turns. 3 keys forged across both players. Not a ton of amber flying around here, but the boards grow ever wider. I see that my scroll bar has appeared to be able to render all of the creatures in their glorious creatureness. We are thinking long and hard about what house to pick and are going to go with Sanctum. So a bunch of creatures aren't going to get used, but we have 3 Sanctum. We actually have 3 creatures in each house, so the value floor of a turn for this woe deck is pretty high. We're going to see Reap, 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 good. Making Amber. Amber is good. The Amber control in Morgenstern is a little fickle, it looks like. You've got the capture, but the capture is a problem because the creatures die eventually. You can't hold on to them forever, and you only have the old switcheroo, I think, as far as I've seen, to get rid of that captured amber. Looking at the discard pile, 8 Unfathomable, 2 Ouroboros, sorry, 2 Geistoids, 7 Ouroboros. So the 2 Geistoids suggest there's more Geistoid coming. So you do see some of it in play. Unfathomable Call. Wrong house. Okay. Unfathomable and Geistoid do look very similar. I assume this is a Geistoid call. Yes. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I think only Unfathomable card we haven't seen is the Under Pressure, and trust me when I tell you, Under Pressure is not solving the problems that DarthMuzo is currently facing. Geistoid call makes a lot more sense. Haunting Measures is probably going to let us get through the deck and maybe get back to our old switcheroo. That would be, if we can find old switcheroo, that's kind of, I think, our only hope at this point in the game. And we need to find it soon. So we'll get to capture some more amber here. Tribute Collector, Geistoid card, 4 power, 2 armor, probably a Spectre. Spectre Robot. It has Taunt. Bunch of words. The important words: play, after fight, a friendly creature captures 1. So this is a nice form of amber control. It could have fought, it didn't, it reaped, but in the world which it had fought, it would have captured 1, and then also Varad. Varad the Indulgent. 4 power Spectre Robot. It gets a +1 power. It has +1 power for each amber on it. Then after another friendly Geistoid creature fights, this creature captures 1. Instead, we see a Return to Rebel, which is going to blow up a bunch of stuff, but puts the woe deck on check for 3rd key. We see Spike Jeff and Funny's Awakening, but the amber control is gone. So that is the game here. Tricky little game. Both decks are willing to just slam creatures, and the difference was that the Brobnar, as Brobnar often is, better at fighting. So Brobnar really flexing its muscles in this game. The bid of 10 was a tricky bid. Seeing the end of this game, you definitely want a couple more chains on the Winds of Exchange deck, and you also just don't want to draw quite so much Brobnar early. I think that probably helps because at some point you get a wide enough board that you should be able to kind of rock and roll with a lead until the Brobnar shows up. I don't know. I'd be curious on like a 13, 14, maybe up to 15. It's tricky stuff, but either way, Anduri1 takes the win, advances to the round of 16. Lots of great KeyForge. Thank you for joining us on this fun KeyForge journey. Bye bye.